Chapter 86. Kidnapping of Subhadra and Lord Shri Krishna's visiting Sutadeva and Bhaulashva. After hearing of the incidents described in the last chapter, King Parikshit is more inquisitive to hear about Shri Krishna and his pastimes, and thus he inquired from Sukdev Goswami how his grandmother Subhadra was kidnapped by his grandfather Arjuna at the instigation of Lord Shri Krishna. King Parikshit was very eager to learn how his grandfather kidnapped and married his grandmother. Thus Sukdev Goswami began to narrate the story as follows. Once upon a time, King Parikshit, grandfather Arjuna, the great hero, was visiting several holy places of pilgrimage, and while thus traveling all over, he happened to come to Prabhas Kshetra. In Prabhas Kshetra, he heard the news that Lord Balaramji was negotiating the marriage of Subhadra, the daughter of Arjuna's maternal uncle, Vasudeva. Although her father Vasudeva and her brother Sri Krishna were not in agreement with him, Balaramji was in favor of marrying Subhadra to Duryodhan. Arjuna, however, desired to gain Subhadra's hand himself. As he thought of Subhadra and her beauty, Arjuna became more and more captivated with the idea of marrying her, and with a plan in mind, he dressed himself like a Vaishnava sannyasi, carrying a tree trunk in his hand. The Mayavadi sannyasis take one danda or one rod, whereas the Vaishnava sannyasis take three dandas or three rods. The three rods or three danda indicate that a Vaishnava sannyasi was to render service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead with his body, mind, and words. The system of Tridanda sannyas has been in existence for a long time, and the Vaishnava sannyasis are called Tridandis, or sometimes Tridandi Swamis or Tridandi Goswamis. Sannyasis are generally meant to travel all over the country for preaching work, but during the 4 months of the rainy season in India, from July through October, they do not travel but take shelter in one place and remain there without moving. This non-movement of the sannyasi is called Chaturmas Vrat. When the sannyasi stays in one place for these 4 months, the local inhabitants of that place take advantage of his presence to become spiritually advanced. Arjuna, in the dress of a Tridanda sannyasi, in the city of Dwarka for the 4 months of the rainy season, devising a plan whereby he could get Subhadra as his wife. None of the inhabitants of Dwarka, including Lord Balaramji, could recognize the sannyasi to be Arjuna. Therefore, all of them offer their respects and obeisances to the sannyasi without knowing the actual situation. One day, Balaramji invited this particular sannyasi to lunch at his home. Balaramji very respectfully offered him all palatable dishes, and the so-called sannyasi was eating sumptuously. While eating at the home of Balaramji, Arjuna was simply looking at beautiful Subhadra, who was very enchanted to great heroes and kings. Out of her, Arjuna's eyes brightened, and he looked at her with glittering eyes. Arjuna decided that somehow or other he would achieve Subhadra as his wife, and his mind became agitated on account of this strong desire. Arjuna, the grandfather of Maharaj Pariksit, was himself extraordinarily beautiful, and his bodily structure was very attractive to Subhadra, who decided within her mind that she would accept only Arjuna as her husband. As a simple girl, she was smiling with great pleasure, looking at Arjuna. Thus, Arjuna also became more and more attracted by her. In this way, Subhadra dedicated herself to Arjuna, and he resolved to marry her by any means. He then became absorbed 24 hours a day in thought of how he could get Subhadra as his wife. He was afflicted with the thought of getting Subhadra and had not a woman's peace of mind. Once upon a time, Subhadra, seated on a chariot, came out of the palace for to see the gods in the temple. Arjuna took this opportunity, and with the permission of Vasudeva and Devaki, he kidnapped her. After getting on Subhadra's chariot, he prepared himself for a fight, taking up his bow and holding off with his arrows. The soldiers ordered to take him. Arjuna took Subhadra away. While Subhadra was thus being kidnapped by Arjuna, her relatives and family members began to cry. But still he took her, just as a lion takes his prey and departs. When it was disclosed to Lord Balaramji that the so-called sannyasi was Arjuna, who had planned such a device simply to take away Subhadra, and that he had actually taken her, he became very angry, just as the waves of the ocean become agitated on a full moon day. Lord Balaramji became greatly disturbed. Lord Shri Krishna was in favor of Arjuna. Therefore, along with other members of the family, he tried to pacify Balaramji by falling at his feet and begging him to pardon Arjuna. Shri Krishna convinced Lord Balaramji that Subhadra was attached to Arjuna, and thus Balaramji became pleased to know that she wanted Arjuna as her husband. The matter was settled, and to please the newly married couple, Lord Balaramji arranged a story consisting of an abundance of riches, including elephants, chariots, horses, men servants, and maid servants. Maharaj Pariksit was very eager to hear more about Sri Krishna, and so after finishing the narration of Arjuna's kidnapping Subhadra, Sukdev Goswami began to narrate another story as follows. There was a householder Brahman in the city of Mithila, the capital of the kingdom of Videha. This Brahman, whose name was Sutadev, was a great devotee of Lord Sri Krishna. Because he was fully Sri Krishna conscious and always engaged in the service of the Lord, he was completely peaceful in mind and detached from all material attraction. He was very learned and had no desire than to be fully situated in Sri Krishna consciousness. Although in the order of householder life, he never took great pains to earn anything for his livelihood. He was satisfied with whatever he could achieve without much endeavor, and somehow or other he lived in that way. Every day he would get the necessities of life in just the quantity required and not more. That was his destiny. The Brahman had no desire to get more than what he needed, and thus he was peacefully executing the regulative principles of a Brahman's life as enjoined in the Vedic scriptures. Fortunately, the king of Mithila was as good as devotee as the Brahman. The name of this famous king was Baulashva. He was well established and his reputation as a good king, and he was not at all ambitious to extend his kingdom for the sake of sense gratification. As such, both the Brahman and King Baulashva remained pure devotees of Lord Sri Krishna in Mithila. Since Lord Sri Krishna was very merciful toward these two devotees, King Baulashva and the Brahman Sudadev, he one day asked his driver, Daruk, to take his chariot into the capital city of Mithila. Lord Sri Krishna was accompanied by the great sages Narad, Vamdev, Atri, Vyasdev, Parshuram, Asit, Aruni, Sukdev, Brahaspati, Kanva, Maitreya, Chavanya, and others. Lord Shri Krishna and the sages passed through many villages and towns, and everywhere the citizens would receive them with great respect and offer them articles in worship. To the citizens who carried to see the Lord and all the assembled sages, it seemed as though the sun were present along with his various satellite planets. In that journey, Lord Sri Krishna and the sages passed through the kingdoms of Anartha, Dhanpuru Jangal, Kanka, Matsya, Panchal, Kunti Madhu, Kaikai, Koshal, and Arna, and thus all the citizens of these places, both men and women, could see Lord Sri Krishna face to face. In this way, they enjoyed celestial happiness with open hearts, full of love and affection for the Lord. And when they saw the face of the Lord, it seemed to them that they were drinking nectar through their eyes. When they saw Sri Krishna, all the ignorant misconceptions of their lives dissipated. When the Lord passed through the various countries and the people came to visit him, simply glancing over them, the Lord would bestow all good fortune upon them and liberate them from all kinds of ignorance. In some places, the demigods would join with the human beings, and the glorification of the Lord would cleanse all directions of all inauspicious things. In this way, Lord Sri Krishna gradually reached the kingdom of Videha. When the citizens received the news of the Lord's arrival, they all felt unlimited happiness and came to welcome him. taking gifts in their hands to offer. As soon as they saw Lord Shri Krishna, their hearts immediately blossomed in transitional bliss, just like lotus flower upon the rising of the sun. Previously, they had simply heard the names of the great sages, but had never seen them. Now, by the mercy of Lord Shri Krishna, they had the opportunity of seeing both the great sages and the Lord Himself. King Bhaulashva and the Brahman Sutadev, knowing well that the Lord had come there just to grace them with favor, immediately fell at the Lord's lotus feet and offered their respects with folded hands. The king and the Brahman each simultaneously invited Lord Shri Krishna and all the sages to his home. In order to please both of them, Lord Shri Krishna expanded himself into two and went to the houses of each one of them. Yet neither the king nor the Brahman could understand that the Lord had gone to the house of the other. Both thought that the Lord had gone only to his own house. That he and his companions were present in both houses. Although both the Brahman and the king thought he was present in one house only, is another occurrence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This occurrence is described in the reverse scripture as Vaibhav Prakash. When Lord Shri Krishna married 16,000 wives, he expanded himself into 16,000 forms, each one of them as powerful as he himself. Similarly, in Vrindavan, when Brahma stole Sri Krishna's cows and covered boys, Sri Krishna expanded himself into many new cows and boys. Maulashva, the king of Videha, was very intelligent and was a perfect gentleman. He was astonished that so many great sages, along with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, were personally present in his home. He knew perfectly well that conditioned souls engaged in worldly affairs cannot be 100% pure, whereas the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his pure devotees are always transitional to worldly contamination. Therefore, when he found that the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, and all the great sages were at his home, he was astonished and he began to thank Lord Sri Krishna for his causeless mercy. Feeling very much obliged and wanting to receive his guest to the best of his ability, he called for nice chairs and cushions, and Lord Sri Krishna, along with all the sages, sat down very comfortably. At that time, King Baulashwa's mind was very restless, not because of any problems, but because of great ecstasy of love and devotion. His heart was filled with love and affection for the Lord, and his family members sprinkled the water on their own heads. After this, he offered the guests nice flower garlands, sandalwood, pulp, incense, new garments, ornaments, lambs, cows, and bulls. in a manner just befitting his royal position. He worshipped each one of them in this way. When all had been fed sumptuously and were sitting very comfortably, Bhaulashva came before Lord Sri Krishna and caught his lotus feet. He placed them on his lap and while massaging the feet with his hand, began to speak about the glories of the Lord in a sweet voice. My dear Lord, you are the super soul of all living entities, and as a witness within the heart, you are cognizant of everyone's activities. You are duty bound to always think of your lotus feet so that we can remain in a secure position and not deviate from your eternal service. Of our continuous remembrance of your lotus feet, you have kindly visited my place personally to favor me with your causeless mercy. We have here, my dear Lord, that by your various statements you confirm your pure devotees to be more dear to you than Lord Balramji, your constant, your constant servitor, the goddess of fortune. Your devotees are dearer to you than your first son, Lord Brahmaji, and I am sure that you have so kindly visited my place in order to prove your divine statement. I cannot imagine how people can be godless and demonic even after knowing of your causeless mercy and affection for your devotees who are constantly engaged in Sri Krishna consciousness. How can people who know of these things forget your lotus feet? My dear Lord, it is known to us that you are so kind and liberal that when a person leaves everything just to engage in Sri Krishna consciousness, you sometimes give yourself in exchange for that unalloyed service. You have appeared in the Yadu dynasty to fulfill your mission of reclaiming all conditioned souls of material existence. You are the ocean and affection. Your transitional form is full of bliss, knowledge, and eternity. You can attract everyone's heart by your beautiful form as Shyam Sundar Sri Krishna. Your knowledge is unlimited, and to teach all people how to execute devotional service, you have sent your incarnation, Nar Narayan, who is engaged in severe austerities and penances at Badrinarayan. Kindly, therefore, accept my humble obeisances at your lotus feet. My dear Lord, I beg to request you and your companions, the great sages and brahmanas, to remain at my place at least for a few days, so that this family of the famous king may be sanctified by the dust of your lotus feet. Lord Sri Krishna could not refuse the request of his devotee, and thus he remained there for a few days with the sages to sanctify the city of Mithila and all its citizens. Meanwhile, the Brahman Sutadev simultaneously received Lord Sri Krishna and his associates at his home, was strangely overwhelmed with joy. After offering his guests nice sitting places, the Brahman began to dance. Waving around his staff. Sutadev, being not at all raised, offered only mattresses, wooden planks, straw carpets, and so on to his distinguished guest, Lord Shri Krishna and the sages, but he welcomed them to the best of his ability. He spoke very highly of the Lord and the sages, and he and his wife washed the feet of each one of them. After this, he took the water and sprinkled it over all the members of the family. And although the Brahman appeared very poor, he was at that time most fortunate. While Sutadev was welcoming Lord Shri Krishna and his associates, he simply forgot himself in transactional joy. After welcoming the Lord and his companions, according to his ability, he brought foods, incense, scented water, scented clay, tulsi leaves, kusa straw, and lotus flowers. They were not costly items and could be secured very easily, but because they were offered with devotional love, Lord Shri Krishna and his associates accepted them gladly. The Brahman's wife cooked simple foods like rice and dal, and Lord Shri Krishna and his followers very much pleased to accept them because they were offered in devotional love. When Lord Shri Krishna and his associates were fed in this way, the Brahman Sutadev was thinking thus: I have fallen into the deep, dark vale of householder life. I am the most unfortunate person. How has it become possible that Lord Shri Krishna, who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and his associates, the great saints, whose very presence makes a place as sanctified as a pilgrimage site, have agreed to come to my place? When the Brahman was thinking in this way, the guests finished their lunch and sat back very comfortably. At that time, the Brahman Sutadev and his wife, children, and other relatives appeared there to render service to the distinguished guest. While touching the lotus feet of Lord Sri Krishna, the Brahman began to speak. My dear Lord, he said, you are the Supreme Person, Purushottam, tangentially situated beyond the manifested and unmanifested material creation. The activities of this material world and of the conditioned souls have nothing to do with your position. We can appreciate that not only today have you given me your audience, but you are associating with all the living entities as Paramatma since the beginning of creation. This statement by the Brahman is very instructive It is a fact that the Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead, in his Paramatma feature, enters the creation of this material world as Mahavishnu, Garbhodakashai Vishnu, and Shirodakashai Vishnu, and in a very friendly attitude, the Lord sits along with the conditioned soul in the body. Therefore, he has the Lord with him from the very beginning, but due to his mistaken consciousness, cannot understand this. When his consciousness, however, is changed into Sri Krishna consciousness, and how Sri Krishna is trying to assist the conditioned souls to get out of the material entanglement. Sutadev continued, "My dear Lord, you have entered this material world as if sleeping. A conditioned soul, while sleeping, creates false or temporary world in his mind. He becomes busy in many illicit activities, sometimes becoming a king, sometimes being murdered, or sometimes going to an unknown city, and all these are simply temporary affairs. Similarly, your lordship, apparently also in a sleeping condition, enters this material world to create a temporary manifestation, not for your personal necessities, but for the conditioned soul who wants to imitate your lordship has enjoyed.